Hello, this is Hanzala, and today we're going to be looking at our first topic, which is on AppArmor on the Kubernetes CKS and the security side of things. Right, before diving deep into the question, we're going to have a quick overview and understanding of AppArmor. So what is AppArmor? AppArmor is a Linux kernel security module. It provides mandatory access control via the profile-based enforcement, and it restricts what a process can and cannot do, even if that process is compromised. Now, why use AppArmor in Kubernetes? Well, this is going to allow us to lock down the containers at the host level, and by doing so, it's going to add an extra layer of security by controlling the syscalls, the file access, and networking. And it limits the containers breakout risks. Now, onto the question. This question is hosted on the Mumshad's Code.cloud website, and this is his CKS course. It's the Lab 1 mock exam, and the question is the first question. So what we're looking at here is we have noticed the pod has been created in namespace, and it has been created with more permissions than it actually needs, and it allows read access to this directory, which allows us then to access an internal site publicly, and this is not good. So we can check this by clicking on this link. So if you click this and we do /internal, you can see that this site is accessed and it should be restricted. Now they've given us the profile and this location, and there's also several service accounts created in that namespace, and we need to apply the least privilege and use the service account with the minimum privileges, excluding the default service account. And furthermore, we need to recreate the pod with the correct service account and also delete the unused service accounts and ignoring the default account. Okay, so now that we have an overview of the question, we know what we're doing. First of all, let's take a look into the first step, which is having a look at the policy. I'm going to copy this, if we do cat paste. We can see that the profile for this is called restricted front end, and it is denying the network and is denying access to all these locations. And we need to apply this to the container, and by doing so, we will also stop the site from being available publicly as well. So how can we do this? So step one will be to apply the AppArmor profile. Now we can take a look at the documentation to give us any quick tips or hints on how to do this. This is just going to tell us on the profiles, and this tells us how to apply it. Okay, so to apply this, we need to let's run the AppArmor, and if we do tab, we can see that there's two. There's this one and the status. So let's check the status. When we do the status and we see what's in the enforce mode, we don't see the front end, the name of the profile itself, and we know the profile is called restricted front end, and we could just double check just so we don't accidentally miss it by just doing a grep, and we paste on there. Let's do that one more time. Yeah, you can see it's not picked anything up, so we know it doesn't exist, so we need to apply it. So if we do AppArmor again and we do tab once more, we can get this. And if you're unsure, you can do -help, but with this you just need to apply the location of where the profile is, so we know it's over here. And if we do paste, so this would have added it, and we can double check now by doing grep I front end. We can see it can find it. And if we do the status, we can see that the profile has been applied and it's in enforce mode over here. So that's step one done. The step two is the service account created in the Omni namespace. Apply the least privilege. So let's create tab. Let's open up another tab, and so what I recommend here is switch to the actual service account namespace, because it'll just save you time on your commands by not having to specify namespace every single time on your command. So if we do Kubernetes get service account, we can see there's a few here because there's only a couple. We could just do a describe, it'll just give us a quick overview if there's anything there. Nope. Let's have a look at the pod because we're in the same namespace now. So if we do Kubernetes get pod and we specify, that's only front end. Okay, and then we do dash. Oh, no, we don't need to do dash actually. We just do describe. Scroll up, we can see it's using service account FE. So this service account is being used. Now, how do we check what it means by least privilege? So there's most likely going to be some sort of roles or something applied to this service account. We don't know what the roles are, so we can do Kubernetes get roles in that, and we see this called FE and front end. Again, there's only 2 roles, so we can do a quick describe and gives us a bit of an overview. And it's telling us these roles, create and delete and create, but we don't know where these roles have been applied to. So we need to check the role bindings. So if we do get role bindings, and we can see more in detail, let's do a describe. We can see that the FE, which is the one that's been applied, the FE role binding is applied to the FE role, and that's applied to the service account. So this role over here is applied to that service account, and that's letting it do this config map and secrets. And the other role, which is called front end, that's applied to the front end role, which would be this one, which is giving us secrets. And we know that there is 3 roles here, excluding the default one, which is FE front end and front end default. So we know that these 2 roles are more or less irrelevant. Well, we need to delete them because they've got too many privileges. So let's do Kubernetes get pod again, front end, and we do dash or yaml, and we save this to the Q1 YAML file. Now, if we do this, and we want to just clean up some space, so let's delete some of these things we don't need. And what else do we not need here? Resources, termination, volume mount. Let's get rid of this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. Scheduler name, security context. Okay, so other than the service account, we don't really need anything else here. Let's just get rid of everything. And you can do this by holding down D or double tapping D. So it deletes the line. And what we also need is, if you look at the quickly look at the documentation, it says securing a pod. So this can be specified by putting this into the file, just like over here. So we can do this if you just copy this and we go over here and make a bit of space, do paste, and we can bring this back up and just double check it lines up how it should. It should be 2 spaces from S, so that ends up in E, then there should be 1, 2 spaces after that, and then this should line up at the P, and that's correct. So for the local host profile, we need the name of the AppArmor profile that we've applied. So I'm just going to quickly copy this again, go over here and do cat, and we can see over here that it is called restricted front end. So over here, I'll paste this back in. And the other thing we need to have a quick look at is we are going to delete these 2, and we need the name of the front end default. So let's paste this back in. Paste this back in. Okay, so that should do it. That's the local host. We'll double check, is the YAML format correct? That is indeed. And let's give it a run and see what happens. So what we want to do as well is we want to delete the pod, which is the front end site. And then we want to do Kubernetes apply q1-yaml. Then we do get pod, and then we do describe pod front end. We can see that it is running, and we can see that it's using the front end default. And all we have to do now is delete the service account for the front end and the FE. That's gone, default is there, and the last thing is to check. You can see it doesn't let us go through. And we can now, just to show you two results, we can do an exam, I think, yes. Exam or stop lab, yes, this will evaluate our score. Let's just quickly check. So that's passed. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on AppArmor. Join me on the next lesson. We're going to be covering another topic on the CKS. For any feedback or any questions you have, drop a comment below. Thank you again.